We're live.
And we're live. Welcome back to the Weekly Roundup. Got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. I wanted to kick us off. If you didn't get the email or haven't talked to your coach yet, if you're on coaching, you get first dibs, but now I'm officially announcing we are updating our one-on-one coaching programming for your pleasure. Now, the big thing that we have been optimizing for over the last decade plus of the Yogapreneur Collective's different iterations and coaching programming is how do we make an offer that facilitates the fastest, highest level of success with the client and also empowers any one of us coaches and us as a coaching group to be able to kind of say yes and help where it's necessary. And we went back and looked at the data, and there's a very clear trend. It is not even close. Basically, people who do higher frequency coaching get faster results and more results. That's it. I mean, it's like that simple, which makes perfect sense because it's exactly the same as at your yoga studio. If I come and I practice 4 days a week versus once a month, which racehorse are you going to bet on that is going to see and report having more success in their yoga practice? So with that being said, we've figured out finally how to offer what we're calling like all access coaching, which essentially means with our new program offering, you get all access to your coach, unlimited through direct messaging, the private cohort that's only with your coach, and then also unlimited calls as necessary. So you set up the regular cadence for what you need, but then if you are on a project, for example, we'll talk about some summer stuff, and you're like, man, I really need to talk with Jennifer 2 or 3 times in the next couple of weeks here, that's possible. Or you're at the end of your call and there's like, I need 30 more minutes because we're in the middle of doing something, you can keep going, etc. Now, we of course have the Yogapreneur business method framework that we follow. That is sort of our guiding principles of what we have proven and know really work to make your studio incredibly powerful. But it's a plus minus situation where we're applying them uniquely custom to your studio and your personal needs. But anyways, all access coaching is now available. If you want to hear about it, if you're wondering about coaching, come and grab a free coaching call. It's pretty easy, link on the sidebar in the YC network here. And we book with any of us, we'd be happy to talk to you about it. Bottom line is, let's get your business, let's double, triple the business in the next couple of years. That's the moment that we're at, by the way. That's what the metrics that we're starting to look at now with a lot of businesses that have been with us for a while is like in the next 1, 2, 3 years, we're going to double these businesses because that's the trajectory that the industry and these businesses are going at. So we're here to help. All right. That little housekeeping aside, I wanted to also comment on wellness living. A lot of people in the YC are using wellness living. I would say it's probably in the top 3 most used platforms for yoga studios, and rightly so, especially on paper. Wellness living checks a lot of boxes and sort of is a really good like bang for your buck kind of platform. But the other thing that's interesting with wellness living versus a lot of platforms out there is its continuity of development. I have to give a lot of credit for this because I've been using wellness living with clients since the 10 years ago, and they just keep putting more and adding more and developing more, which is cool to see because there's a lot of platforms that have come and gone and they just have stopped. So the 2 things that if you haven't heard yet, I do think are interesting that I want to call out are 1, wellness living now has a Zapier integration. And if you're not sure what Zapier is, it is sort of like the online middle connector between 2 platforms. So wellness living plus Google Sheets. Zapier is how you can just automate a connection between them, for example. I have yet to test it at depth, but I have been playing around with it. And I just think that single detail could be incredibly powerful. And to my knowledge, no other platforms have a Zapier integration right now that's working well anyways, which is mind-boggling because if you're not in the yoga world using on-the-ground yoga CRMs, a Zapier integration is so fundamental for the success of your SaaS product that like everyone has it. So I wanted to call that out. And then also Wellness Living for a little while has had their AI machine learning bot, and I've been playing with it a little bit. It's different than MindBody's Bowtie or what is now MindBody AI. in terms of what it does. But the one thing that it does that I think is really powerful is similar to what FitGrid now does as well. If you're using MindBody or Club Ready or Mariana Tech with FitGrid, is it tells you on its dashboard, these are your at-risk clients. So it's actually tracking behavior and says, like, here's the 10 people who have decreased their practice frequency over the last 4 weeks, reach out to them. So that sort of predictive model and giving you some preventative care, I think, is really powerful. So it made me just think about bringing it up. We don't talk about wellness living maybe as much as we could or should. But additionally, just these concepts of like, what should your technology do for you? These are both squarely in the category of, I would be looking for them if I was starting a brand new studio today and trying to find the best platform. Zapier integration, 100% yes. Some sort of AI bot machine learning integration to solve a couple of things, but especially when we're talking about predictive, preventative care, client outreach, I think that that's where that can be very powerfully utilized. Yeah, that's it. That's what I got for now. That all being said, curious to hear your guys' thoughts on any of this. And then Jennifer, I know you can spin us into some things that have been coming up with you and your clients.
So we were talking before we went live all about summer. Summer is coming if you're in this hemisphere. So a lot of times we start to get, as owners, a bit in like a panic mode because perhaps we didn't plan out our summer plans as far as promotions and schedule, our own time off, all of that kind of stuff. So there's kind of two prongs to what I was going to talk about here. So you might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done this and I should have done that. And I see other people doing this, but it's too late for me to do that. That might be the case. But my suggestion would be, get your marketing calendar out for next year and start to drop those things on your calendar for next year. And remember, if you think, oh yes, I want to do a Memorial Day sale, that happens at the end of May. That means that in March, April, you need to prepare for that, understand your strategy behind it. So when we drop things on our calendar, it's not just, okay, I'm going to do bingo at my studio from June 1st to June 21st. You have to backdate, your to-do and your marketing calendar of planning for that a few months in advance. So you can get the graphics done, you can have the strategy done, the why, your goals around it, and really think about it so that as you start to market coming up to an event, you're prepared for that marketing. So if you didn't prepare for it this summer, just put it on your calendar for next year, and you're going to feel already 2 steps ahead of the game. So that being said, we were talking about Memorial Weekend coming this weekend and kind of 2 things around that. Do you have a different schedule over the weekend for this holiday weekend if you're in the US? Or are you doing any type of a flash sale? So we all agreed, yes, you can do those things, but don't just do them because everybody else is doing them. And don't just be like, oh, I'm just going to sell. The easiest thing to do, I'm going to sell my 10 class card for 50% off, right? So really understand and think about a strategy of why you're doing something or why you're not doing something. I had a coach one time that told me it's either a hell yes, or it's just a no, right? Like, so ask yourself, do I need to do this? Do I need to have a sale? And why do I need to have a sale? Do I need to make, let's say I need $5,000 in order to pay my next payroll for some reason. Like maybe you have some, bigger things coming up. You owe a teacher from teacher training or something like that. Then make that your goal. Say, okay, I need this weekend, I need to sell $5,000 extra in something. And then really think about what you want to sell. It's easy to do class cards. Yes, but that's not where we want people to be. So if you are doing class cards, maybe you don't discount them as much as you typically want to discount them. And maybe you sell a limited number and maybe there's some kind of a FOMO around them. So you really drive people there. Only sell the number that you need to sell. Or, if you're really working on your memberships, maybe for 2 days, you have 50% off your second month of membership. Because if you're in direct to membership, you might have that first month at a discount. Or if you're an intro style, you might still have that beginning. So I really like the idea of not the first month discounted because they should be excited to go into that. But maybe as a retention tool, the second month is discounted as just like a change up. So I guess what we really want everybody to think about before we just like panic and do what we saw someone else do, is why we're doing it and have strategy around it. And if you don't have time for it this year, put it on the calendar for next year. What do you think, Terry?
Well, Josh had his hand up. So Josh, you want to go first?
Oh, thank you, Teacher Terry.
I just didn't want to jump in like I normally would have.
Terry, you go ahead. You go ahead. I'm dying to hear.
Well,
what you
I just had a couple of thoughts. One, to Jen's point about have you changed your schedule for whether it's Memorial Day or maybe you're making summer schedule changes, which is a very common thing to do. And it's not that you're optimizing your schedule for the reality of summer, right? We talked about this several roundups back, is just because you have a summer slowdown doesn't necessarily mean you have a decreased attendance, doesn't mean it has to be decreased revenue, right? So you can definitely optimize your schedule for the summer, particularly if you're in a tourist town. Or like when I lived in Massachusetts, a lot of people went either up to New Hampshire to the mountains and the lakes, or they went to Cape Cod, right? So adjusting your summer schedule and looking at it strategically. And also summertime is a great time to do like pop-up classes. If you're thinking of maybe adding a type of class, or you want to see if a class is going to go at a certain time slot, then maybe adding like some pop-ups and seeing, well, could this be a time slot? Like I did some pop-ups on Friday night and we made it date night, right? Come bring someone, do class, get cleaned up and go have dinner. And that was really popular for a couple of weeks. People really loved it. Did I have it all the time? No. So this is also a time where you can kind of do some special things. And in terms of just your schedule, this is just a tactical thing, you guys, because this just happened with me locally. Is I was looking, I wanted to see if a restaurant was open on Memorial Day, specifically Memorial Day. And I called the number on their Google list and it was wrong. The phone number was wrong. And I knew this place, I've been there before. So I went, I found it. And when I checked to see if they were open, because guess what? They did not also have their hours updated on Google. So when I called to ask, they said, oh yeah, we're open Memorial Day. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know your phone number. Oh, we know that, but the owners aren't here very often and they're the only ones who can change it. And I was like, just absolutely blown away that the owners know that their phone number is wrong on their Google listing and they haven't done anything to change. So I actually put in a request, like an update. So when you make any of these type of changes, make a note to yourself to go into your Google My Business profile and update your listing for the holiday. In fact, I know when I had my studio, I would get emails from Google that said, hey, Momoy, are you making changes to your schedule? Are your hours changing? As a reminder. And I always would go in and I would change those hours because people are going to want to see that. And it's not good when that information is incorrect. So again, just a very strategic tactical thing. And I'm pretty sure, maybe those of you who've been doing it more recently, I want to think that I was able to go in and like do all the major holidays for the year at the beginning of the year with Google. I don't know, maybe I'm making that up, but I think there might be.
I think so.
I think
you
so.
can
So
pre-plan
anyway,
it all.
when you do these changes, like if you're going to change your schedule, all that stuff, make sure you update it on Google. That's just sort of the tactical thing. And then to Jen's point, I was just going to comment about, a summer package is, and I know we've talked about this before, is, maybe you do like a summer unlimited for the summer, making sure though that you're not undercutting your monthly membership. And here's a way that is interesting. We always like to think in 1 month or 2 months. What if you made it an odd number, like 10 weeks or 8 weeks? And then take your monthly membership, divide it by 4.2, because there are 4.2 weeks in a month. Let's say that ends up to $26 a month or $26 a week. You times that by 10, that's $260. So maybe price it $259 for 10 weeks, right? So it doesn't always have to be like 1 month, 2 months, make it a week, make it an odd number. So it does not undercut your monthly membership, because that's the worst thing you're going to do is throw something out there that's $20 less a month than your membership. And your members are going, what the hey, I'm going to cancel my membership by this. Right. So those are just sort of my rambling thoughts on that. Josh.
Yeah, the summer, Jen Jennifer already said this, I think, really powerfully as well. But to echo, anytime we're going to do anything in the business, but especially when we're talking about sales and this sort of stuff, I think you have to ask like a really deep filter question, which is, why am I doing this? Like, what is the problem that you're solving? What is the strategic outcome that you're trying to accomplish? And if you don't have one, then like, it's okay to just do nothing. Sometimes it's like, we've just always done something because it's like what we do, like, oh, it's summer, Memorial Day, people have a sale then. But that doesn't mean you have to do it. We talked about Black Friday a little bit before too. You know, the counterculture of Black Friday is gaining momentum every year as well. So there's no rules for this. I would say that looking at what other people are doing in the yoga world, and at the risk of sounding a little assholey about it, like the problem with looking at what other yoga studios are doing is that you don't know if those studios are broke or not. And a lot of them are. That's the truth. So you really have to kind of be aware of what goes on in a market and what's expected from your clientele. But you also have to always filter through your own entrepreneurial intelligence, which is, what's the problem I'm actually solving? And if I did this, what's the outcome I actually need to and will accomplish from it? And let's suppose, just before we jump back to you, Jennifer, let's suppose you determine, I don't need to have a sale. I didn't plan one ahead of time. I don't have a good reason for it. Like, I don't know what it would be, so I'm going to not do that. The other opportunity that we forget is, if you're not spending your time in the next week here or whatever, or let's call it the last month even, building a sale to launch, then you could spend that time not needing to ever do a sale. Like, look at your KPIs, look at your deeper issues in your business, look at it from the perspective of, you know, if the reason I'm thinking about having a sale right now is I need an influx of cash at this time of year. Well, how do you fix that more permanently moving forward and start putting the same number of hours and energy towards strategy and solution around that? Would be an intelligent use of time. I think when we say like, you don't have to do this thing, then there's also, if you have available time, like where can you devote and focus that time so that you're really focused on the big domino, the big rock, whatever. Yeah, so you're more powerful moving forward. Go ahead.
One example for that strategy around doing a sale. So let's say that you are planning to do a membership sale in August. That means in June or in July, you need to get as many new people in as possible. Or if you're on a traditional intro to membership model, it would mean in July, you need to get as many people in the net in their intro month that can convert to membership as possible. So it's like you're backfilling that sale. So if the sale is in August of the first month of membership is a discount, then the more people you can get in intro the month before, the higher the chance you have of conversion and the more people you have to convert. So that would mean, so that's in July. So that would mean in June, perhaps you have a giant sale or promotion for your intro month, right? So really kind of think forward and then work backwards on that. Second point is, when you're thinking about changing up your schedule for summer, if you are in an area that has, or your quintessential client might have kids in school. And so your morning start time, like at my studio, our elementary school used to start at 9:10. So 9:30 was like the perfect class time for like drop off parents. But in the summer, 9:30 might be a little bit too late. Like we don't have drop off and a lot of the camps start at 8. So thinking about when you're thinking about your schedule, really look at your avatars and your quintessential client and look to see how their schedule changes in the summer. And then if you want to adjust accordingly. My third point before I hand it over to Carol is, if you're still having some hybrid classes where you're Zooming classes, or you have an on-demand library that you've built up, this is a great time to start your education and your promotion and reminding people that if you're traveling or your kids are home this summer, or, whatever you're doing, you can still practice with us. Don't cancel your membership, because hopefully your Zooms and your on-demands are a perk of your unlimited membership or your highest tier of membership. So get that education going, get those photos going of people that are on vacation somewhere or on, work or home with their kids, practicing from home, little reminders on how to access those classes, and really start to remind people of the power and the benefit if you have that as a perk. Carol?
Yeah, those are great, Jennifer. I was sort of going to spin off of what Josh was saying, that, there are a lot of studio owners that are burnt out, right? And it's partly because what Jennifer was saying too, like, you're not thinking strategically about what is the purpose of this. Maybe it's, the event is just that you've always done it and it's really for fun, but you have to really, like, maybe you're burning yourself out doing things that are not really beneficial to the business. And so, I think everyone's sort of talking about this, is like, planning is key, and being strategic about the plan is super important. So think about, you don't have to do something. Sorry, I'm reading the comments here. So just think about the preparation. I think now it would be, it's like, now is the time. If you are running a little bit slow, then we need to think, now would be the time to think about fall. And just like Jennifer was saying, like, being strategic about the end of the summer into September. What kind of event do you want to have in September, October? And, get with a coach and let's plan it out now. And then you'll be really prepared for then. Terry?
Yeah, I was going to actually say that. So thank you, Carol, for bringing that up for sure. And then if you just want to get so flippin' prepared for next year, there's still some spots left at the summit, right? And this is the time where you want to get dialed in and set the year off for 2024 to make it the best year ever. Book the summit, because this is all the shit we do at the summit. We basically lock you in a room, and granted, it's an amazing room and you have ocean views, and we do all this super cool stuff as well. And you get to see Josh and I dancing and all this other kind of fun stuff. And at the end of the week, you walk away with a solid plan for 2024. You're going to know what your goals are. What are the 3 big things you're working on? How are you going to get there? And then an outline of the detail. Will you have the full detail plan? No, but you'll have at least the outline of all the events you're going to do. Then you have the follow-up after that. And part of the summit experience this year is you do have follow-up with coaches. So then you've got these follow-up calls that will help you stay on point. So if you're thinking, now that might be a good idea to run a little bit of a summer sale. So you can, if you're thinking, I can't afford the summit, maybe this is the time where you think about, how can I afford the summit? Because the summit will pay itself back tenfold. So also, now, Josh, do I get brownie points for working on in there? Did you see how
double brownie points?
Double brownie points.
It's why we do here. There's a couple of things I'll spin off on this that we haven't announced yet, right? One thing is, we went in and looked at a couple of the clients' numbers just recently, because now it's been a full quarter cycle after the summit. They had their plan, they've been implementing on their plan. And from the year-to-date averages before the summit to where they are averaging after the summit, in 2 cases, they're up like 400%. Like in one case, the number of first visits they were having was like 40 to 50, and now it's like 150. And in another case with revenue, they're like having their all-time highest years ever. And there's a lot more to it than just the summit, obviously, that goes into it. And that's that studio owner's efforts. But the point would be, when we ask them about it, we're like, why is it that you're having this success? And they're like, in huge part, it's because I have a plan and I'm implementing on my plan. So they're not like flying by the seat of their pants trying to figure out what to do. They're just actually doing it. We will be sharing some of those soon, so you get to see that. But super exciting to see, because it just proves out exactly what Terry's saying. And then this retreat style summit, the annual visionary retreat, it might be a totally, like, it'll still exist next year as well, 2024, But because of how it's been operating for the last few years, we're debating it becoming an invite-only situation. So this might be the last public year for this one to even get into without getting like the golden ticket. So little extra fire under your butt. If you're thinking about it, do it. There's payment plans. ROI is there. You'll have your whole next year planned out. And this year, one of the big shifts for those who have participated before is there's a lot of pre-work. Terry mentioned the follow-up afterwards to help, but there's pre-work too. So there's a pre-group session and then also a one-on-one coaching session. So by the time you actually arrive at the summit, we're not going to be spending very much time on like figuring out numbers or whatever else. That's all ready to go. So every moment when you're there will be on the deeper strategy and tactics necessary for you to accomplish your goals and really make that plan dialed up. So yeah. This makes me think of a quote that I heard the other day. I've been using it since then. I don't know where it originates, but I think that it like embodies your yoga studio situation that I've experienced throughout the years and myself was part of for a long time, way back in the day. And it's this: amateurs want to do what they love, and professionals learn to love what it takes. And this whole planning and this summer stuff and all of this, I think, falls into that quote pretty squarely. You know, the difference that we see between professionals and amateurs is in part how you embody your entire business and how you get yourself hyped up on really doing what it takes. So that just made me think of that. I thought it was a good quote.
I'd like to give a big shout out to my coaching client, Ginger at Yoga You and Me. She is moving into a new space and she's so amazing and inspirational to watch on social media. Like she's learning how to drywall and she's putting it all together and she's just like become this contractor behind the scenes. And she's building just this absolutely amazing wellness space. She's going to have some spots in it for massage and for other modalities in it. And it's just, I love behind the scenes watching it. And so it's Yoga You and Me. If you want to follow her, Ginger, and look for her in the YC as well. It's also just a great reminder that like the social media and the marketing to me personally that resonates with me is when I see real people doing real things, learning new skills, making themselves vulnerable, and like just doing it just like an everyday thing, showing stuff like that is so much more impactful to me than like a shit shined video that has two different cameras coming at it and you can't see any of the person's wrinkles or warts. So think about when you're watching people's stuff, the stuff that you're consuming and that you're engaged in is making you happy and like, oh my God, so cool. Like I want to meet that person. Appreciate that, but also pay attention to, oh gosh, well, like, look how she's doing that. Look how it made me feel. Maybe I can learn from that and I can show some of that behind the scenes. So something that I learned from Ginger is in my own studio, we are doing a little refresh this evening in the lobby, and it's going to be a surprise for everybody, including my team. So my husband and I are going, and we are going to be putting up wallpaper, which we have never done before. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to film it. I think it'll be kind of funny. We're doing it during happy hour time and it's Friday, so we will be having beverages. So that will make it even better. I got some wallpaper printed from Etsy. That's a step and repeat of our logo, not the name of the logo, but like the little symbol in the middle. So we're taking down one wall that has images and things on it, and we're wallpapering that one wall. So thank you, Ginger, for your idea to show some little behind the scenes of me. I'm hoping that we can get most of the wallpaper up before the happy hour like super kicks in. But you know what? It's a practice, right? Terry, you have your hand up.
Yes, I was going to say to that point, summer is also a good time to do refresh because we do have a little bit of a slowdown, lesser attendance. If you have modified your schedule. So if you want to do like a big project, like in the summer of 2017, I replaced my floor and, I didn't document it as well as I could have on social media, but I did to the best of my ability at that time. And so I closed the studio because I needed to close the studio. So that's the other thing too, is if you need to close for a few days to get to do a major project, summer is a good time to do that. And a lot of times people are thinking, well, I can't close because members will get upset. I can tell you that for the most part, they don't. They get it, particularly if you're documenting and sending it out and talking about what you're doing, because then it gets people excited. They can see the investment you're making back into your business. And I actually had people come up and thank me because we got rid of stinky carpet, right? Because we were a classic Bikram studio. And I'm still amazed that people ever came back to take a second class, because by the end, it was like our carpet was so stinky. Even though we had it clean and we did all that stuff, at a certain point, you just can't get the funk out. So people were really, they were like, oh my gosh, Terry, thank you so much for making that investment in our community. Yeah, that carpet was really getting bad and blah, 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 blah. So don't be afraid to close. And also don't be afraid to close if you need to take some vacation. Let's talk about that for a second, right? Because I know I was always like, oh, I can't close if I want to, close other than needing to, do a big retrofit. If you have teaching, teachers are taking a week off or whatever, and teachers, you're having to teach all these classes, maybe you plan where the studio just closes for a week and everybody takes a week off. Or you go away, it's like, hey, the studio's closing on vacation. We're practicing what we preach, which is self-care, right? We're seeing more and more of that. It's okay to cancel classes and take a few days off and put it out there. Hey, studio's closed, so we can all enjoy times with our family. And I can tell you that I would, like, when I closed for the, oh yeah, and Jennifer said, if you have a VOD library or something like that, you can maybe give free access to it if you have a paywall for it or something like that. But even if you don't have that, I did have one person, the week that I had to close to the floor, asked for an extension, just one out of hundreds. And I'm like, sure, no problem, right? So I went ahead and added. What they didn't realize is I added a week onto their current month, but it still billed on this. I didn't change their entire billing cycle. I just extended. So it was kind of like they thought they were getting a week extension, which they did, but it didn't extend their billing out. Anyway, don't be afraid. If you want to close because you need to take some time and self-care, then close. Just make a big deal out of it. Hey, we're doing self-care, and document it. Say, hey, this is where I'm going. I'm going to show you whatevs, and then also unplug and don't worry about stuff. Josh.
Carol just said bye. She had to go to a coaching call right now. But I was thinking everything that, right from Jennifer talking about ginger and everything. I mean, and the authenticity of like showing the behind the scenes rawness, I think is really quite powerful. Here's the additional detail that you could add in that I think we underestimate its power. So, and let me back up for a second. Ginger is like one of my hero studio owners. She's been in the YC for a while and done coaching for a while now and has had a lot of success. And it is like, we've been there with her to help along, but it's her. She is really driving the bus forward. And she's gone from teaching some classes in like a little room on the side behind, I think, like an indoor flea market where she sold wire trees that she made by hand, like these little art things. And now she's like in her third space iteration and drywalling. So she's the perfect example of like, she's hustling to make it happen and doing what it takes. It shows a lot of professionalism. And for that reason, she's not only having success, but I'm sure will continue to. But to Jennifer's point, how can you not, from a local business standpoint, like how can you not respect and fall in love with the story around someone who's doing that to try to bring such a powerful, positive service to, the local environment? So that's where like being a little raw that way is good. Here is the additional flavor detail, if you can put it in there. Think about the thing that you're showing, what is the subject matter of the thing that you're authentically showing, and who would be interested in that? I'll explain more. If you talk about like the specific KPI numbers and stuff in your business, that might be authentic, but other business people would find that interesting. But you're not going after just other business people because your product isn't just for other business people. So that type of raw, authentic content doesn't hurt anything necessarily, but it's not necessary. It's not focused on the right thing. On the other hand, Jennifer having, known as the yoga authority in her market, but then having a drink and putting up wallpaper because that's what it takes to make her community and space more beautiful and have this curated environment of awesomeness, that does make sense. And that is attractive for the people who are in her community and know her already. Or another example recently that I'm still baffled that this hasn't been the primary marketing strategy for all yoga teacher trainings forever, was a yoga teacher training having someone create UGC content as they went through the teacher training. So they just talked about their experience of the teacher training. They did a recap. Here's what we learned today. The teacher came in and was like, this is what we were talking about and why. And just like showing the inside behind the scenes of what was happening in a totally unpolished way, inclusive of like any of us who've gone through a few teacher trainings that have any intensity level, like there's a breakdown moment somewhere in the middle. Teacher trainings push you in a way you do not necessarily anticipate. So like having that breakdown moment and the drama around that and it just being real, that's super valuable, because then people who would be interested in teacher training, guess what they're going to do? Watch that, become connected, remember you. Like that's the best kind of marketing.
Hey, Josh, what was that cool tool that we used at the summit? That little video thing. What was the name of that? That would be a really good one for teacher training.
Yeah, that's an excellent for teacher training. Good point, Jennifer. It's called Video Ask. It's by Typeform, which is like a form filled or whatever. It's not that expensive. I think it's $500 for like a year for it. But what Jennifer is referring to, for those of you who didn't come to the last summit, is I can film a video and say, hey, tell me about, how did you think the food was today? And then it gets sent to everyone who was at the summit, and they can type in, do a voice recording, or right there within the app that they end up in, click record and record themselves making a video answering the question that I've just asked in a video. And then that can sequence that people go through. So in general, it was a cool way for us to help create feedback / testimonial / daily information / daily reflection all in one go in sort of a video formatted way. So yeah, retreats, teacher training, stuff like that. Video Ask is the platform. I think it's definitely, honestly, I would, if you're trying to get better, stronger testimonials going and make it asynchronous, I would be using it just for all of your testimonials in general. And then the other place that a platform like that is potentially usable, although there's other ways to solve this too, is for your internal team. If they do like a daily report or something like that, or if you need regular training with them, that kind of platform can facilitate all of those things. So,
that would be a good one. I'm working with some of my coaching clients on doing a soulful sales training with their staff. And one of the things that I did with my staff is we did a virtual one. Josh virtually came to one of our meetings. He trained on soulful sales. And then leading up to that, I gave them access to the soulful sales training. It's 3 different videos. And after each video, I asked them to just do it one a week. So they didn't try to binge through it because there's so much to consume. You could do it over much longer if you wanted to. And then I had a document after each one of the videos that they had to fill out, specifically things they learned, things they think that they're already kind of doing in that, and things that they want to implement. So you could use that along with soulful sales as well. And that would be like a really good little kind of follow up for people.
Yeah. It's almost
once
like
you
a
have
little
that, if you have
test
that
system.
Membership for the year, right? You could just use it in so many different ways.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, we could do a whole post just on Video Ask as a tech platform. And like, it's just one example. It's the best one that does this specific job, but one thing, Jennifer, that you're bringing up, which I think is we're really at like a cool moment. You know, we've been saying this for a while. There's a video I posted some time back talking about this machine learning AI path that we're on, that we are past the point of no return. It won't stop. This is the internet circa 1995. And I think people are hearing that and it's catching on, and people are talking about ChatGPT, which is like one of a million things that are out there. It's just the one that has talk around it. But this is more of like a technological conversation and how to get intelligent to leverage technology to make your work-life balance easier, but still produce something or accomplish something that's powerful for the business. So this actually started years ago. And in the yoga world, a really good example of like where things up-leveled was Brandbot. Like suddenly you could build a proper funnel with branch logic and entry and exit goals and stuff. That was very powerful. And it's still to this day, a powerful automation. It barely scratches the surface of what we can already do and where we're going to go in the next very short amount of time. So you have to be careful of shiny object syndrome, where you're like, oh, this is a cool platform. I could do this, I could do that. So it goes back to what we talked about earlier. What are you solving for? What are you trying to accomplish? But technology is at a moment where I think as an owner, it's important to create mental space to ask simple questions such as, we do this thing regularly. I want it to be powerful like this. What technology or what would I need it to do? What would I need something to do if this was 10 times easier than it is right now?
What if you integrated that video technology into your new student funnel? Like your first month, like they come and they take their first class, and then there's a video that goes to them talking about how was your first class? How did you like it? You know, what questions do you have? Just reply here. And we would love to, you know, it would go along with text and phone calls, obviously. But if you incorporated those video asks into your new student funnel and your retention funnel, because it's easier to me. I am like a voice text person. So I must have like the big thumb syndrome, because I cannot type or text. It just comes out as garbage. So if you were, you know, interested in this kind of video ask, like thinking about all the different ways you could leverage it, and just always remember, when you're thinking about that kind of stuff, always think about like your side of it, of course, but imagining that if you were new and you received this and you actually saw the owner or the specific teacher or any of that kind of stuff talking to you specifically about what you had just experienced, like how connected you would feel there. And maybe you would be more apt to share, oh, I took the class, I didn't know what I was doing. It was like a little bit too fast for me. That happens for people, right? Because they're like, oh, I want to go to the 9:30 class. I don't care that it's a power 2 class and I've never taken yoga before, but I'm a runner and I'm a badass athlete. But then they go and they're like, holy shit, I didn't know what was going on. So now I don't necessarily know if I'm going to come back or not, because I'm used to feeling like a stud when I run, and I didn't feel like a stud in yoga. So I don't know, you know? So maybe, you know, just imagining those different places that you could use that tool as well.
I love that. And I think it's a genius idea. You could completely build your funnel around the concept that let's talk about intros as just a zoomed in period of time, because I think it's easier for context to what Jennifer is referring to. So one of the ways that you might approach calibrating an intro moment, even if you're direct to membership the first month, is we shift it from, you're on an introductory special where you have a discount to try it out. That's not the psychology of someone on that anymore. That was the psychology of people coming into a studio 10 years ago. Now people coming into a studio, getting to the studio is that phase. If they're there taking class with you, other than like they're traveling through town or something, they've already made the subconscious decision to participate in yoga practice with you. So if you lose them, it's more that you dropped the ball rather than you didn't convince them. That's the shift on our side, which means you can get a little more creative during this first retention period, where the video ask could be, you know, series that they're going through, and it's about getting feedback, but it's about having a conversation with them asynchronously and digitally so that it's depressurized from the studio a little bit, would be one example. Another example would be for a few clients, what we have ended up setting up, especially on on-sites, is we flip the whole thing around and we say, you're not on your introductory special, you get to join our new student program, which is a month long. During this time, I'm going to send you these things that are valuable and beneficial to you. And then when we do that and we reframe that way, and the whole team refers to it that way, the open rate, the click rate, the whatever else on those is through the roof versus the industry average, because it's contextually different. So to Jennifer's point, yeah, how do you make it more about the students and helping them succeed? Yes, the objective is retention, but that should just be the natural repercussion of events. Sales happen automatically when you do things right, rather than because you push or whatever else. One more detail on this I'll add in, different than Video Ask, because it couldn't do it on that platform. This is where it gets a little weird, but like, as we sit right now today, you can create a deep fake version of yourself. Like, you can create an AI avatar of your body and face, and you can type stuff in and it will use your voice and produce a video. So you can be not on camera at all and produce a video that does this. And there's even automations where you can have the same video that is just a film of you, and all it does is it changes this part of your face and the first few words. So you can have a video that goes to a new student in theory, and you can get it close to automated now. It's not exactly, because it doesn't integrate with some of the CRMs that we use on the ground. But in that video, it says, hey, Terry, hey, Jennifer, hey, Josh, like it's 100% custom video to that individual person. That's possible as it is today. Now, does that mean you should go do that? That's not necessarily what I'm saying. I'm just saying we can already do that. Like, the yoga industry has historically been a decade behind in technology. So I'm putting this stuff on everyone's radar now, because it's like, this won't just be a good idea. It'll be the status quo in the next 5 years. So we have to start to be aware of it.
That's some scary stuff.
It's a bit strange, isn't it?
It's a bit, it's
Yeah.
just like, if you think about all the sci-fi movies, if fiction is reality, then reality is fiction. I don't know, what's that quote? Something like that. If you think of all those sci-fi movies from years past, and you know how things, next thing you know, we really are going to be able to beam me up, Scotty, right? It's like,
Yeah, we're gonna get in that DeLorean and go into the future.
yeah. Or
Get in the DeLorean and rev it to 98.
holy smokes. And all we thought we were doing was teaching some yoga classes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I know when I opened up my studio in 2013, I didn't know anything. And I literally was like, oh, I mean, I would go to studios and I'd be like, it's so easy. It's just like a room, and you hire teachers and you just put up a little sign, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, a yoga studio, how fun. And then they just come, and the teacher, you know, it was barely even like Spotify-ish type stuff. Like the teacher plugged in their phone to a speaker and they taught the class, and you had like 2 props to choose from, and then you just left. And you know, there was no automated emails. There was none of that kind of business going on. I thought, oh my God, I'm totally going to open one of these. You know, this seems so easy. How fun. I get to just wear yoga pants every day, and it'll just be so great and easy. And now after 10 years, thank God I didn't know what I didn't know.
Well, yeah. You don't know what is it? I wish I knew now. Knew then what I didn't know.
Yeah,
now.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think I would have like a little bit of imposter syndrome knowing all of that's there. You definitely would have needed a coach from day one.
Well, yeah, for sure. But I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something, I mean, actually there's a great, okay, now we're just really going off on a tangent, but there's a great movie. Jen, you might remember it. Josh, you might be too young. And plus we were in Canada skating on the ice and getting your teeth knocked out, called, it's with Nicolas Cage and Kathleen Turner. It's called Peggy Sue Got Married. And it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I think it was like in the early 90s or something like that. The premise of the movie is, without getting away, Nicolas Cage and Kathleen Turner were high school sweethearts and the king and queen of the prom. And it's 25 years later. They're going back to their 25th high school reunion. And like many marriages at that stage, things are a bit, I'm not going to give too much of the plot away. However, something happens at the prom, at the reunion, and Peggy Sue passes out. And the next thing she knows, she wakes up in her bedroom, but yet she wakes up in her bedroom at her parents' home, and her mother is calling her to come down to breakfast because she's going to be late for school. So she's like transported back in time, appears as what you would see when she was a teenager, but yet she comes in with the experience of a woman in her late 30s, early 40s with 2 kids. And it's just really fascinating that she has all of those memories and how she then approaches the world and the people within that world with that experience. So just saying, if you want something to binge this weekend, or maybe put it on your queue for the wintertime when the weather's not so great. Peggy Sue got married, and you can write
So
about
the question would be, comment below if you've made
Comment
it,
below.
if you've made it through this psychotic vomit of ideas that we've had today from one to the other. Comment below if you could be Peggy Sue and you could go back in time and it's 1 month before you open your studio. What do you wish you would have told yourself that you know now?
That's a good one.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Yeah, I'll start.
it.
Mine would be, when I made my budget, I did not put enough into marketing because I thought that word of mouth, everybody would know. Like, I mean, 10 years ago, granted, there weren't any studios in my town. It was a beautiful, magical time. But I just assumed like, well, I'm into yoga. So if a studio opened, I would totally know and I would tell all my friends. But that wasn't who I needed to be marketing to. So mine would be, I would put more than $0, which is what I had in marketing for the first year because I was extremely smart and intelligent before I opened. I would put some more money into marketing. So that would be what I would do 1 month before. Terry, what would you do 1 month before?
Since I could answer it twofold, because one, with my studio, I purchased an existing studio. So one of the things I would definitely do if I were to go back, because it came back to bite me in the butt much later down the road, is I would draw up, because it was an existing studio. However, I would draw up, and all the teachers at that time, we were all employees. So I didn't have that. We were already employees. I would definitely draw up a very well strong teacher agreement, what the expectations are, and redo the pay structure. Right? Because I found out that some of the teachers were being paid way more just because they've been teaching longer. And we've had this conversation numerous times, right? So I definitely would go back and have that nailed down. So that I remember, Josh, you told this story, or not this story, you told about somebody that bought a studio and walked in and fired everybody. And then they had to rehire. And then they had to, go through the interview process, and then he rehired them. So maybe not going to that extreme, but definitely saying, okay, new day, new sheriff in town. This is what I expect for my teachers, and are you on board? Now, I might have lost 1 or 2 teachers, which probably would have been a good thing, right? However, so that's one thing I would do. If I were to open a brand new studio, I would, and this is not just like trying to pump us up, I would absolutely hire a coach.
Yeah.
I would hire a coach more than a month out. I would hire a coach at like 6 months out.
Yeah.
To help get everything dialed in so that day one, when the doors are opened, everything is in place. Right. And since you gave a shout out to a client, I'm going to give a shout out to a client. Jahari Rollins of Exalted Jewel Wellness is doing just that. Right now, she is doing classes in her home and going to other people's homes to do classes. And her vision is to have her own space. So within the next year to 18 months. So we're working together to build her home business as well, and start getting all the mechanisms in place. And then at the same time, looking forward towards the future as to what needs to happen to get a physical space. So that is definitely something I would do. I would work with and I would sign up for the all access membership. Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah.
And go to the summit. Terry's trying
And
to
go
get
to the
most
summit. I would do
points.
all the
She's
things.
filling up
Terry's
her
like,
brownie
do the
stash
stuff.
all in 1
Do
hour.
all the stuff.
I would find
I mean,
the money to do all this stuff.
That wasn't what I was going to say, but I agree. We hired coaches, but I waited too long. I looked at the coach. At first, I looked at hiring a coach as an expense. And in hindsight, during the tumultuous moment of like finalizing the build and the financing and the business plan and everything else, having someone else, if I was confident they knew what the heck they were doing around this industry, it would have sped us up years, which is how I ended up here coaching now. So, the thing that I would have changed now looking back is I would have been more focused on product development, on like the actual yoga class itself and yoga class styles, and like what exactly were we trying to do and the definition of that, and like really making it part of our brand out of the gate. Because I think that, at least for me at that point, we just taught the classes we knew how to teach or that like people were doing, and you just did it the way that it was done. There was no thought process. Like it's the saying, like the minute you do anything and say, we do this because it's the way we've always done it, you're dead. Like that's not, things don't stay static. But that was how we approached the yoga teaching. And that eventually changed, but like out of the gate, there was no strategy, no thought about that at all. And I think that is actually really important because you need that clarity for your brand. Like, what is it?
And I think that was particularly true with Bikram Studios because of the type of yoga it was. But, yes, we're way, way beyond that, the basics. But even back then, it's, even with something as static, which it is, it's a static series, even with something like that, how are you going to, what's the vibe in teaching it at your studio? Right? Just to Josh's point. And in fact, I just had this conversation with a client yesterday. There's a teacher in their area that is Bikram certified and wants to come in and do a Bikram class, and, a 60-minute class, which is fine. And I just asked the question, I said, well, is it going to be really a straight up Bikram class with just making it modified to an hour, or are they going to put in elements of vinyasa? I would say, I would ask them, because what's the reason you want to add this class to your schedule?
Does it fit your studio? Is that what your studio is?
And she said, well, we're looking to add something different. I said, okay, if you're going to add something different, then I would really advise that, she's going to meet with this person, I think next week, is that you stick, even though it's a 60-minute class, you stick to the 26-2, because if you start doing some like flow in there or some things like that, then that's kind of like what you're doing now. She's like, oh, that's a really good point. I said, if you're looking for something that's different, then keep it true to the Bikram sequence, however that works out with a 60-minute class, but not adding in like sun A and sun B and down dog, because you're already doing that in your vinyasa flow classes.
If the goal is, I want something different,
if the goal is I want something different, then stick to that. If it's not the goal, then why are you adding this class?
Well, I would take it a step further and say, Bikram aside, if you're going to add a new product line to have something different, it's like, why are we adding something different? Like, why do you want something different? What are we solving for? And then what's the different thing that makes sense versus what you currently have? One, and two, what do your clients actually want?
Yeah.
And that can be hard to decipher, but like, a good example is if you're a heated power flow studio, it might make sense to have a Nidra class or a yin class or something like that. Not every day, but like somewhere in the schedule, because there's a balancing nature to that. And even your existing clientele would probably like to do that, and they might be asking for it. On the other hand, doing a standard hatha class, whatever that means, every day of the week in that same studio, now you're like, that's a totally different product line that you have to develop, and it might not fit together. It's not to say that it wouldn't work. I'm just saying, like, you want to be a little more critical thinking about the whole thing. So,
Wow, how did we start off?
I don't even know how we got here.
I love the roundup. This is why I love the roundup.
I think Roundup is perfect because it's not round. It's like buckshot, but then we go around and around and around and we kind of like level up
Yep.
and then we come back down.
Our non-formatting is helpful actually for
It
this
is.
kind of
But I
conversation.
do think, we've talked about this before, I do think we need a logo and we need a theme song.
Yeah.
And a
Michelle,
dance. That's going to be up to
Michelle,
you.
when you're watching this later, Michelle, we're still waiting for our jingle.
We're still
Start
waiting
out
for
the roundup.
Because
Yeah.
our most, yes, all right, well, I think we've pretty much covered the gamut. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
got to
it.
go
That's
put
it
on
for
my
now.
wallpaper uniform.
Please tell me you have like a one-piece jumpsuit.
Oh, I'm going to have something. That's good. That's a good question. I have a wig collection. So maybe I'm going to be wearing one of my wigs.
Oh,
That
there
makes
you
sense.
go.
I'm
Now,
feeling a little like D. Snyder today. I got
Okay.
a really good D. Snyder wig.
Yep.
Do you, is the wallpaper, do you have to match or is it, does it
Yes,
match?
Terry. Yes.
Oh my
Terry.
gosh, okay, so here's.
Yes. I don't
the
make
next-
anything easy. I might
Have
as
you-
well. You know what? If you're
Yeah.
going to learn, then you're going to learn. Then
So here's the secret to that, because
Oh,
I'm
here
not
we go,
that I've done
wallpapering.
wallpapering before, but with quilting and fabric, the same thing. Is always cut a little bit longer so that you can, line it up
and
Once
trim.
and trim. And then,
Yeah.
I would you're going to want to maybe like start in the middle and kind of work. And what is the repeat? How wide?
Oh God, Terry, come on, girl.
Here we go.
I'm like sweating in my pits right now just thinking about it. That's not my style.
What's
I
the
am like
repeat?
Just
let's
stick it on the
put
wall.
up there and
Just stick it
see
up
what
there.
happens. Like I am
Yeah.
the plant. I'm a Scorpio. Like I have no Virgo in me. Which my husband is very mathematical and I am not. So that will make the dynamic super fun too. So
This is gonna be good,
Well,
especially
and
after a
just
glass of
remember
wine.
too, if
Yeah.
it's not 100% perfect, who cares, right? Life's
that's
not
the story of my life right there. It's on my tombstone. It's going to say good enough.
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
Not
I like
shitty.
it.
Done is
Not
better
shitty.
than perfect.
Yep.
I
Well,
like it.
admire you for telling
I'm
me that.
super excited to see this wallpaper now. Commit to the
All right,
insanity.
Keith.
Okay, have a great weekend. Go do some yoga. Go save some lives. Talk to you guys soon.
Comment
Bye.
below.